Hey, it's PMR. Today is launch day for the 50-150 f2 G Master lens. Let's get right into it. First of all, it's got internal autofocus and zoom. But here's what the YouTubers won't tell you about that. The focus throw is perfect. It's about 1.75 inches in width, so you can literally get from one end of the spectrum to the other without touching it twice. You can touch it once. It's a one-touch zoom. It's awesome. The second thing is the focus throw is not only perfect in sort of distance, but it's also perfect in terms of the tension of the zoom ring. So it's really speedy and it's a really short throw. So for basketball, for instance, volleyball, this lens is going to be awesome. When you punch into 1.5x, it becomes a 75mm to 225mm f2, which is pretty interesting. The lens zoom range is from 50 to 150 millimeters, so the lens shade is made for a 50mm focal length. Otherwise, it would vignette at like all the other focal lengths. So this is a little bit of a problem. However, I think that 30 days or so after this thing starts shipping, it's supposed to be the third week of May, I think the aftermarket folks will rally and find better shade solutions for you. So that won't be a big deal. If you shoot around water through windows, or you shoot a lot of cars and motorcycles or chrome toasters, you'll be able to use a circular polarizer inside the lens shade. It's got that little door that the 7200 has, so you can control it without having to remove the shade, which is nice. Same goes for those of you dying to attach neutral density filters to your FX3, FX6, or FX9, because you're going to want this lens for interviews. I can't think of a better interview lens on the planet, because it's always going to be the perfect focal length that's going to give you a prime look no matter how big or small the room is you're in or how close or far you are from the subject. It's just dynamite for those FX cameras. Let's talk about weight. This new lens weighs 2.95 pounds. Now, that seems rather heavy, except when you consider the original 7200 GM lens, the 2.8, was 3.3 pounds. Now, they did a miracle thing with the 7200 GM2, and they shaved that down to 2.3 pounds. So this lens is heavier than the 7200 GM2. However, I own the 7200 GM2 lens, and I also own the 135 GM as well. And when I'm doing portrait work, serious portrait work, I'm going to take the 85-1.4, I'm going to take the 135-1.8, and I'm going to take the 7200 2.8 GM2 with me. Now here's the deal. If I end up buying the 50-150 f2, which is very likely at this point, I'm probably not going to need that 7200 2.8 anymore, and I probably won't need the 135 1.8 GM anymore, which is kind of blasphemous, but it's true. But here's the deal. If you take the weight of the GM2 7200 and add it to that, the 135 1.8, the combination of those two together are 4.4 pounds. So the 50-150 lens is 1.5 pounds less weight than the 135 with the GM2 7200 2.8. So even though it's heavier than what you're used to, it's lighter than those two. And I think that kind of is going to make the decision for me. Another thing to consider is that when you pair this new lens, this 50-150 f2, with the 28-70 f2, you're now going from 28mm all the way to 150, all at f2, and you're having the extreme convenience of a zoom. Sometimes when you're shooting portraits, man, there's like fleeting little moments that go away. If you're changing lenses while you're doing that, you've missed it. And so, I don't know, this pair of lenses is very intriguing to me. I already have the 28-70, so I'm thinking 50-150 is part of my future immediately. Just like the 7200 2.8 GM2 lens, this one also has 4 linear XD motors. So this is a very, very, very fast autofocusing lens, which you're going to see when you see all the examples in the photographs, especially near the end. The track stuff is really tremendous. This lens has a 95mm filter size. Now, it's kind of bad news. It's bigger than, even the 28-70, but 95 is a really common size. It's been around for a really long time. There's lots of lenses out there that have this size. So it won't be as expensive as you think to get a UV filter or whatever you need. The last thing I'll say is that this lens has a very, very creamy look to it. Sometimes when you say creamy, it means it's not sharp, but this is a very, very sharp lens. But the background, the bokeh, is extremely natural, organic. It doesn't have an electronic feeling. Sometimes the background autofocus areas of certain lenses look really rigid. They look really mechanical. They look really alarming, like it's an alarming background. This lens is beautiful. And I really, really I can't wait to get my own copy to begin shooting portraits and headshots with it, because it's going to be a really, really nice, it's going to really lend itself to much better improved pictures that way. I mentioned the 135 a couple times in this, and it's hard not to, because the 135 GM is in the focal length range of this 50-150. I don't really think it's hard for me. This is really hard to say, but to me, the 135 is the sharpest lens, not only that I've used in Sony, but it's the sharpest lens I've ever used in my entire career, which spans all the Leica M stuff, all the Hasselblad stuff, Fuji GX680, 4x5 lenses. The 135-1.8 GM has a really beautiful, beautiful look to it, and the sharpness of it is unparalleled until now. And I think I will be selling my 135 in order to get this thing. I'd gladly give up the third of a stop between 1.8 and f2 in order to get all the way to 150 at f2. That's worth it for me. So that's it. So let's look at some pictures now. I shot a lot of things with the 50-150 f2 GM, and so I wanted to get right into it. One of the obvious things that you might do with this lens is shoot portraits and do weddings and do event reportage, photojournalism. There's just a ton of stuff that you do with this thing, to say nothing of all the video aspects of using this lens too. So I shot some portraits at a small college south of me. This is what I want you to do is pay attention to the millimeter. So this is a 132 millimeter ISO 50. I'm using height speed sync on an A1 Mark II. And as you can see, this is, straight out of the camera pretty much. You can see there's some greenery in the background, but you can't see much else. Now I've backed off to 76 millimeters, and now you can kind of see a little more detail in the foliage behind her. And way down here, these are like specular highlights from parked cars on a parking lot, which don't even bother me because they're so out of focus it doesn't matter. Now we go to 109 millimeter, and we really get a good look at her eyes. Beautiful eyes, lots and lots of color there. Anyway, it was windy. It was kind of like I had a big wind machine that God was jamming on. So it was pretty cool. Here's 56 millimeter. You can still see those specular highlights there. And you can see how the plane of focus in the tree and how it just immediately goes out of focus right behind her, just like her hair. So there's very, very little depth of field, even at 56 millimeter at f2. This is 50 millimeter, 150 millimeter from the same position. So this might be really important for those of you that shoot a lot of portraits. It's a big range here, and I'm pretty close to her. I'm kind of right in front of her. So to go to 150, the lens focuses very, very close. If you want to crop, less than a whole face, if you want to crop right here and even right here, you can do that with this lens. It's very nice. So here's 94 millimeter, kind of right in the middle between 50 and 150. And you can see how pleasant the out-of-focus cars are. There's no big deal there. Very, very nice. And even this sign, there's a sign here that's like about, I think, a walkway. It goes across a road. Now you can actually see the bumper of a car, but it's still quite beautiful. It doesn't really look bad because It's at, and this is at 55 millimeter. So if I backed up and I zoomed in, all this would fuzz out. So pretty nice. We just had Easter at my church, and I took advantage of the time to shoot some very low light stuff, candlelit stuff with the new lens. So this is 4000 ISO, 57 millimeter, f2. Of course, f2 is where I was at, and you can see how sharp this lens is. It is really sharp. This is 8000 ISO inside the church with just candlelight coming in, and I'm focusing right here on this girl, and you can see the IAF is working great. I had no problem in low light with the, the camera working with the lens. It's just all pretty nice. 100 millimeter. Here's 93 millimeter, 8000 ISO. I'm at 1/25th at f2. Very sharp. You can see the candlelight reflections in her eyes as the other people are coming into the church behind her with their candles. Once again, this is just super sharp. Her nose is out of focus, and the hair at the right side of her head is out of focus. Her eye is tack sharp, and so this is at 150 millimeter, 8000 ISO, squeezing off at 80th of a second. Kind of risky, but it worked. Street photography. People vastly different people that do street photography like different lenses. I really like a 35, but 50-150 in a big city with big wide streets is really cool. And these are some just architectural images I made in a little town called Blue Island, which is south of Chicago. There's a lot of old homes there, and there's just a lot of detail, and it's kind of cool. So this is just me walking around this neighborhood shooting pictures, but you can see just gorgeous bokeh in the background. There's no busyness of the bokeh. It's very simple. It's very easy to look at. Just the setting sunlight backlit on this post holding up a porch. Very nicely handled. Really sharp. And then, of course, this is at 150 millimeter. And then this house is right next door to this other house. So these two houses are probably, 15 feet apart. So it'll give you an idea of the shallow depth field possible at 150 millimeter with the lens wide open. Not a great, flower picture. It was already sort of on the way out, getting burned up, but just kind of cool showing what's possible. This is not minimum focus. So I could have actually gone a little closer, but anyway. And again, just architectural details at sunset, just kind of showing what's possible from the street. Just a post, but look at all this detail here. Oh, this is really nice. 68 millimeter at f2, wide open, sunset again. All right, I went to track and field practice. There's a meet coming up this week I'll be shooting, and I wanted to go and just see if there was anybody practicing, and I found this guy doing discus. And this was the first picture I shot when I looked at the result and went, oh yeah, this is just as sharp as the 135-1.8 GM. Absolutely. When you get up in here and you see how sharp this is, it is deadly sharp. It's awesome. I'm so excited. This is 81 millimeter at f2. One thing I want to remind you about is I'm shooting through this black netting, and I'm right up on top of it. But because I have f2, I can actually blur out the foreground net that's in the picture that's like fighting me and still get this sharp picture. If you close down to 2.8, in other words, if you're using a 7200 2.8 to do this, you're going to see more of that netting in the foreground that you don't see really at all in this picture. So again, a lot of people are going to be trying to figure out, should I stay with my 7200 2.8 GM2, or should I go and do this, 50-150 f2, which is the better way? And I don't know. It's a really tough choice. Here's another frame of the same guy. I mean, just razor sharp. You could go in there and like shave his whiskers. It's so sharp. It's like just tremendous. And look at all this detail you get in the hand at the release. It's really cool how it's all, Anyway, I got to digress. I'm going to make this picture a little bigger just so we can still see everything. I want to make sure you can see how sharp this is. Again, here's a girl just doing hammer throw, and this is her second wind up, before she releases. And you could literally go in there and crop just, you could crop this and get a headshot out of this if you wanted to. I mean, it would work. Totally would work. So insane. I was really lucky. There was some people playing basketball, and so I went into the gym and I started shooting in normal spots. Now, especially at tournament time, when you are shooting like NCAA, Final Four, Elite Eight, even the Sweet 16, there's very limited seating on the court side, and you never really know where you're going to get stuck unless you're working for SI or AP. After that, you just don't know where you're going to end up. And so this lens is it's like it was made for basketball, because 50-150 covers every single part of the court you could sit on and shoot the game. So, and just have one lens instead of like 3 lenses or 4 lenses. So let's just take a look at a few of these. And I want you to pay attention to, this is at 150. This is a point guard. She's bringing the ball in from half court. This is at 150, and it's pretty. The background is really out of focus. It really looks nice. Now she's getting closer. We're still at 150 at f2. This is 8,000 ISO. I've not touched these pictures with any kind of noise reduction or anything like that. Now they're closer still. I'm still at 150. I have no problem keeping the player that I want to in the foreground in focus. Now she's getting ready to hit, make a basket. I'm at 89 millimeter, so I'm 150 to 89 millimeter. And then she is going up. I'm at 50 millimeter. So now I've backed out so I can see everything. The camera and lens are cooperating tremendously well, and there's no problem. Here she goes up for the shot. And I get blocked by her face because of her arm. But hey, here's just 95 millimeter f2 coming in, driving the basket. 104 millimeter actually went tighter as she came in. I knew what she was going to do, but look at her eyes. I mean, those eyes are tack sharp. That is 135 sharp right there, in my opinion. And then she finally makes the basket, but I'm at 50 millimeter by the time she gets out. So I'm from 104 down to 50 just to make sure I get the shot. Little fingertip release here. This is 61 millimeter. She's really close to me. Just take a close look at her arms. Neither arm is in focus, only her face, and like her eye is just drilled. So I'm pretty in love with this lens. This is at 50 millimeter. They're right in front of me, like literally right. I'm looking up at them as they're driving by. And these are obviously 2 friends that are having a great time. It's really fun to shoot women's ball. It's just, it's really cool. Then they lose the ball, and then they go after the ball. And then I switch focus to the girl that's further away because I think she's going to get it. Anyway, there she is. Another fingertip release, the intensity. Okay, this is a pretty cool little series. So this girl, number 10, she's going to run right behind 3 people. Now the camera and the lens are going to stay. I'm still doing, back button focus, and my back button is depressed, and the camera is following her. It knows what distance she is. It knows that she's got a black shirt on and not a gray one or a maroon one. She comes out the other side. She's sharp. Again, you can see eyelashes here, in addition to all the reflections of the lights above in the ceiling in her eyes. You can still see that. Again, this is another example of how good the autofocus is on the Sony. Look at that. Like, there's a player right in front of her. Here's another shot, same one. Okay, so we're going to look at some tennis now. And, those of you that shoot a lot of tennis, you think, well, 50-150, it's kind of really cool for mid-court. So if you're at the net itself or on the benches that are like usually right there, close to the net, this is a fantastic lens. It's just tremendous. And I love to shoot backlit. And this is kind of one of my favorite pictures. This is the ball has been hit already. And every time the player's hit, when you're backlit, you get to see the fuzz get knocked off the ball. And so that's always really fun. And this is before the hit has happened. But shooting backlit, and it's really, just really sharp. You can zoom into any of these really easily. It's, it's great. These are 150. Get rid of these crop lines for you. This is at 150 all the way on the other side of the court. So I'm on one side of the net. She's on the other side of the net, all the way deep, in her lane there, returning serves. Again, you can see that back here, you can see all the stuff coming off the ball, but focus is right here. I mean, it's right there. I probably could have toned this one a little bit better, but I just wanted to show you mostly, straight out of the camera pictures. So again, here's the ball. Here's all the fuzz that got knocked off the ball, and then her intense look and all that stuff. You get a full body here. You can see the fuzz in there. You just can't see the fuzz all the time, even at the high shutter speeds. You gotta have a really sharp lens to see that. But most of what we're looking at is a function of high shutter speed. So you really want, and this is a mistake, by the way. I'm at 2.2. It's just my hand, my index finger drags across the camera when I pick it up sometimes, and it just changes it to f2.2, but I should be at f2. Can't quite see her face as well because of her hair, but her eye is sharp, which is what I want. Here's 68 millimeter. So I've come out a little bit and zoomed way out as she approaches the net. Running away, you can see the fuzz behind the racket and the ball up here. Player off the ground with the logo in the background. Can't beat it. Okay, so you see all the fuzz. I'm hoping you can see the fuzz, but yep, that's great. If you look closely, the ball is squashed. It's pushing on the strings. So this is the maximum moment of the hit where the ball is smushed against the strings and the strings are pushed back. Hard to get these, but it's a lot easier when you shoot 30 frames a second. So here we go with the anticipation before the hit. Again, this is 2.5 now. Again, it's a mistake, but this is 150 millimeter, and I'm punched in here. So this is not an 8640 wide picture. This is a 5616, which is the exact width and pixels of how wide it is at 1.5x. So this is an A1 Mark II again. So this is like a 21 megabyte file because I've punched in. So I'm actually at the equivalent of 225 millimeter right here. Just playing with the light. I love backlit. It's great. So she's pretty far away from me, but look at the background. The fencing and then all the netting in front of the fencing, the number one, it's all really pretty out of focus. So this is definitely an eye candy machine. This thing really, really, as long as you get in focus, and which is not a problem with, the A1s and the A9 series, you can definitely do that. But and just note my shutter speed. I'm at 8,000th of a second at f2 shooting. She's pretty much side lit, but when she looks straight ahead, she's front lit. And you can even see the Spider-Man on her net, on her strings. It's kind of cool. Okay, so football. I've been shooting the Birmingham team down there for the UFL, the Stallions. And I brought the lens down there, and thank God nobody saw me shooting it. It was kind of rainy before the game, and I put a fleece over it. So I would just pull it out from underneath the fleece and shoot it and then put it back under the fleece. So thankfully nobody saw me doing that or took a picture. But let's just take a look at a few frames here. This is a little run where this guy goes, and he's going to run now into defenders, but he's got blockers helping him, so there's a path for him. And he's completely behind. I'm still back button down, man. My thumb is pressed, and it's tracking him through all this traffic, all these frames. And he comes out the other side, and I'm still sharp on him. And then finally he gets hit by this guy. Nice job seeing through the traffic. And then he goes down. So again, just take a look at this. This is 150 millimeter, and this is punched in. So this is 5616 pixels wide instead of 8640, and it still looks really, really good. So this is equivalent of 225 millimeter right here. And you can see just how quickly the pitch goes out of focus. Like right here, it's out of focus, right behind him. So even though he's far away from me, it still just looks really good. And the background is so smooth. It's really quite nice, I think. See up here, you can see 5616. This is showing that it's, punched in. Another frame. He's really far away. I'm actually in the end zone in the corner by the pylon, and he's looking for, looking down. So he's pretty far away. He's probably on the 25 or the 30 at this point. And actually, it would be like the 15, excuse me. But anyway, he's still pretty far away. Just think about the depth of the end zone plus, beyond that. And here he's trying to figure out, he can't find a place to go. He's made a decision right here that he's going to go ahead and run. And now he takes his first step forward. And now he's made it through, he thinks, and then number 7's going to get him. The expression on his face is really good. Both feet off the ground. This is a nice picture. Look at the background. It's really, really tremendous to see just how beautiful these backgrounds are and how they don't fight with the foreground. I think it's really important. So as you look at this, this is a run in. This guy's, he sees the eyes on the prize, but number 46 is going to strip the ball away from him and create a fumble, which happens. And there's some recognition on his face now. Now we see that the defender, his face, the ball is now loose. 28 sees it, but not fast enough. They've all got all this momentum going from the speed, and now the ball is just going away. And now so it's bouncing. I've backed up, so look at here, I'm at 150 millimeter. I'm at 131 millimeter because now I see the ball is going to leave the frame if I don't do something. They're coming straight at me. The ball is coming at me. I'm at 53 millimeter. When somebody finally gets on it, falls on it. And here's the next play. Another sack from behind. But look at this beautiful background. I mean, it's so out of focus and nice. Really, really nice. Like the 135. Anybody that's ever taken the 135, 1.8 to a football game and shot, on goal is going to love this lens. So here's another frame. Pretty cool. Yeah, just running off the field, but look how the eye autofocus is working through the mesh of the helmet. Face mask, rather. So yeah, fingertip release. Kicker. 2,000th of a second f2 at 1600. Big difference in, I was shooting a 600 f4 and then this lens at this game. So I was 2 stops difference between the two lenses. And that's a lot of quality increase for the short stuff. This is just a know-nothing picture, but it really shows you, again, at 150 millimeter f2, and this is not punched in. So this is like an actual full frame picture. I'm still, on the sideline, but pretty maybe at the 5 or something like that, or the 10. Just look at how beautiful this number 21 is, and the stance and the other guys. It's just in the background. It's gorgeous. And again, you can see how shallow this depth of field is. I mean, it's literally, a foot and a half deep, and then it's just a fuzzball. This is a cool play where a guy batted a ball away from a receiver and kind of rejected a nice pass into the end zone, and it was rejected. This looks kind of busy and out of focus, but if you look, the kicker and the holder are both sharp here. And again, this is 150 millimeter, and this is, yeah, this is not cropped, so it's full on. Here's another quarterback scramble. He's trying to get away. He runs behind a bunch of people. He gets sacked. This is a different play where there's a big pile up really close to the bench on the Stallions side of the field, and they had to like pull all these guys off, and the refs are in there trying to figure out what to call, what the call is, and they get the call. And so you get this great looking jubilation. This is a cropped image from way across. I'm next to the end zone on the other side of the field. So this is 225 punched in and then cropped by like half, and it still holds up. So, okay, track. This was kind of cool. This was like kind of an opportunity for me to do test autofocus. And so I wanted to see what I'm doing is I'm letting Photomechanic run through these really quick and get the pixelization out of it, because I want to show you the entire thing all the way to the end. And that should let us do it now that we've got it in RAM. So I put the sprinter way off on the side of the frame, as you can see, and then I just let it rip. And I mean, every frame is there. And so here is, I'm still at 150 millimeter here, and right the next frame is where I start to pull out 145, 144, 143, 142. I mean, it's like super quick. 138, 137, 136, 135, 134, 132, 131, 130, 129, 127. I mean, I am zooming out as this is happening, and I get all the way to 93 millimeter, and she basically blasts by me. The other thing I want you to pay attention to is her face, because her face is sharp in every stinking frame. There's not a frame where the focus dropped at all. I mean, it's tremendous. It's a tremendous lens and camera. It's not the lens. I mean, it is partly because this thing has 4 autofocus motors instead of 2. So just one more time so you can just see, and it should be even faster. I probably should have made a video clip out of this. And as you can see, just watch the tree. Now ignore the sprinter, just watch the trees behind her. Because as she gets closer, the trees are going to go more and more out of focus. And it's very pleasing. There's nothing fighting back there. There's nothing mechanical looking. Sometimes it's like a jaggy looking out of focus thing. And so here's another sprinter, kind of the same thing. I'm just going to go a little slower here. So we're 150 millimeter, 8,000th of a second f2 at 160 ISO. And we're going to stay at 150. And I'll let you know when we start getting to change the zoom. There's 145 millimeter. She runs in this is the shadow of a light pole. Isn't that neat? Just that little tiny piece right there. That's a really cool frame. 144, 142, 141, 139, 138, 137, 135, 134, 131. Again, you may think, why is he talking about this zooming and autofocus thing? Like, why is this such a big deal? It's a big deal because the Tamron lens cannot do this. The Sigma 8200 millimeter 2.8 cannot do this. These lenses that I just mentioned cannot autofocus and zoom at the same time. But the Sony lenses can. The 7200 GM2, the 7200 f4 G lens, and the 50-150 f2. These can accomplish this. And again, if I wanted to, I could show you her face at each frame. It is tack sharp on every single frame. And as she gets closer to the camera, it gets more and more difficult for the lens to rack and the camera to keep up the autofocus. And what I did on this is I took the last frame before she left the frame altogether, and I blew it up for you so you could see it. So this is 50 millimeter f2, so I'm as wide as I'm going to get, and this is a blow up of that frame, and you can actually count the eyelashes. It's just pretty tremendous.